Hello and welcome to Elbow Deep with Wayne. And today's episode is with Mum.
G'day. How are
Introduce
you?
yourself, Mum.
Hi, I'm Dawn. I'm Wayne's mum, and the
So,
pleasure, the pleasure of giving this person his beautiful face.
okay. It's only a little bit cringe, eh?
Yeah, I know.
So, Mum, I want to start out with outlining some of the good things that happened this week. So,
Yes,
I've officially started my postgrad, and that has been exciting. And it's also Pride Week,
it is. Yes.
um,
It's a,
which is great for a person who doesn't like to venture outside of my home.
no, no, you don't. But no, it's good. It's good that Pride Week's on, and in the past we've also supported Pride Week, and
Mhm. It's just good.
it is. It's
Mhm.
great. Well, you get your day. We get Mother's Day, Father's Day. You get Pride.
Yeah,
So why not?
yeah,
Why not celebrate it?
yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Um, it can be quite a diverse of uh, yeah, it could potentially be a little bit of not everyone feels fully represented, and it's also what does it mean now and how
Yeah.
is it represented. So there's definitely a lot to
Oh,
discuss around that.
definitely,
But that's
definitely.
not today's conversation.
No,
And I don't feel like I'm equipped with the knowledge to actually answer quite a lot of questions because the old brain is not working very well today.
because he's had a whole week of studying again.
I'm also a little bit unwell, so yeah,
Yeah.
I've got my nice little like ginger and orange juice with honey.
Oh, yes, yes.
So cheers.
It is Saturday afternoon.
That's one thing I haven't done yet. I haven't actually started the podcast with a drink yet. It'd
No.
be nice to do that. It would be nice to
That
do
could end
that.
up being a very interesting podcast, Wayne.
Uh, I'll be less filtered.
Very true.
It'd be quite funny actually. It'd be interesting some of the stuff I'll end up saying. Yeah, I like the stream of consciousness. So this the aim today is just sharing stream of consciousness and flow,
Yep.
which is a lovely discussion point because there's no. We have questions. I can ask questions.
Yeah.
That's not going to be an issue. But
Well,
basically,
it could
just
be for me.
it's just around that flow of chat, flow of communication. It's probably, I mean, one of the reasons for this podcast to begin with is to basically feel like we're just, you know, sitting back,
Mm,
geeking, and have a good old yarn and spill some tea. And
yeah.
health and fitness is always integrated into most people's lives, so
Mm,
it's just
yeah.
one of those things.
It's,
And
it's also
plus,
good for people to see us outside the clinic room.
yeah, I mean, it's also an opportunity to potentially jump on topics that
Yeah.
normally not many people would hear anyway.
Yeah.
With the preconsense that people are actually listening.
We live in hope. We live in hope, Wayne. One day. Might be great, great, great down the line, but someone will hear us.
So I'm going to start with this, a really generic scenario. What is one
Mm.
of the highlights you've had this week?
One of the highlights I've had this week, watching the squash.
Yeah.
I volunteered, I signed up in September last year to volunteer to help with the PSA squash championships that are here in New Zealand at the moment. We've got about 15 to 20 of the top men and women squash players in around. And
Where is it being held?
it's held at the Isaac Theatre. Oh my
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
how nut is that? A glass squash court in the middle of a stage in the Isaac Theatre.
Yeah.
It
With a
is,
chandelier over the top.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they can't see
'Cause
that. But
I mean,
yeah.
I don't retain details very well. I can't even remember when the Isaac Theatre was built.
It's one of the oldest buildings
Yeah.
in Christchurch, and
Yeah.
it's been reinforced post-earthquake. It's probably one of the strongest buildings, except for the facade, because they never touched that. But they literally took everything off it, rebuilt it in steel, and then replastered it and left it ornate.
So I remember when we did the COVID lockdowns and we were talking about, like, we went and tried to do some history lessons, and history is not my. I remember muscles. That's the element of my ability to retain information. But I remember learning that the Isaac and the casino, like
Mhm.
the casino was the first casino built in New Zealand.
Yes, it was.
And I think
It was
Isaac
built
had.
in 74 for the
Oh, you
74
retain
game.
that.
No, they do because the town hall was built at the same time. Sorry. And they're
Is
both,
the Isaac Theatre built in the same
no,
time?
the Isaac
Oh
Theatre's,
no,
no.
no, that's wrong.
It's older.
Older than the
It's,
Isaac.
yeah.
Sorry, it's
Oh,
older.
yes,
Oh
yes.
yeah, I don't know then. That's
There
fine.
used to be,
Is it older than the casino?
oh God, yes.
Oh, fuck me.
It's built around the same
Sorry.
time as the Heritage Building and the old press buildings and all of that. It's all of that era.
Oh, yeah, I remember that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's a
like
large section of that I just tuned out.
wise decision.
I should probably open that can of worms one day.
No. Why? Oh, yeah, you could.
Fuck yeah, I don't give a fuck.
Exactly. No, so watching how they set it up.
Oh, yeah,
and
squash. Sorry.
How
Yeah.
they all had it all, the glass stage.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, if I could ever learn how to put a picture into this conversation, I wish I had that skill, but we're not there yet. You're just going to get choppy audio.
We'll get there. But that's probably been one of the highlights of the week, watching the kids, and some of them are kids. One of them is only 17.
Yeah.
And she went pro when she was 13.
Yeah, if I'm honest, so mum loves squash, and I don't know if many people are aware just how much she loves squash, but I mean, I'm late in the game. So when I was there watching, I have to admit, like I understand elite sport. I do understand elite sport. So I understand that everyone's at a caliber where technically they're all able to get majority of shots, so that it goes beyond just getting shots.
It's who fucks up first.
It's literally a psychological warfare, if I'm honest, and it's watching two people literally have a temper tantrum, and who's going to be worse off in the mental.
Yeah,
and the arguments to the empire. Oh my god!
And that is a conduct warning.
Oh my god! And it was literally like watching. Sorry to remove you from the scenario here, but your parents fighting. It was so awkward as hell, and I'm just watching it going, what is this? Am I witnessing abuse? Like, what is this? Should I like intervene and say, oi, you need to go on timeouts? But I then understood that it's all a game. Like, and when I do it's a game, but like, it's just a tactic.
And it's challenging.
It's like chess.
Yeah, it's exactly the way I describe squash. It's a game of chess.
Yeah, but like I thought it was
right to.
Yeah, but like just to clarify, all right, just to put into perspective of skill level, like one aspect of squash is just understanding how to hit a ball in anywhere on the court, and then you're playing this psychological warfare game, and
whether not,
I'm just like, I barely can do this. Which I get it, because I used to do the same in swimming. Like I was very tactful, and I still am. Like that strategic mindset always translates, but it is such an eye-opening feeling seeing like a different sport do something that I'm used to, but in a totally different format.
But then you surprise yourself when you pluck out those unusual shots, and yet this week you've seen it like it's everyday events.
Oh no,
some of your plucked out ones are just like, how the hell did you get that?
Yeah, but that's also the learning curve, right? These people have been doing the same movements over and over again, and in this little glass box that they've got on stage, you can literally see where the rubber ball has been hitting and leaving marks, and it's always either the left, so that's a backhand for most people, the back corner, so they're just constantly loop it back out, and they make it look so fucking easy. They're motherfuckers. Those motherfuckers.
They really are, aren't they?
And they're skinny. They're so skinny
and tall.
I was expecting like a little bit more muscular, but so far who I've seen so far.
Yeah.
And so I've seen the 7th seed male world ranking.
Yep.
And there's like a good gust of wind and he's on the ground. Like,
what about the one with the bald head?
That's what I'm referencing.
Oh, you mentioned the British
7th.
guy.
Yeah. He's 7th.
No, I thought he was 5th.
No, he was 7th.
No, actually, the British guy's ranked number 2. He's 7th
ranked,
in the world.
That's what I'm referring. Yeah. I'm not. Yeah. He's only ranked number 2 in the game that they're playing, but in the world ranking, he's 7th. See, I retain important data.
And he's in his 30s.
World rankings.
And he's in his 30s.
Yeah, you can tell because a good wind is going to throw him off the fucking court.
But it's great to watch it though. It's been an interesting week.
Yeah, so mum has been volunteering at the Isaac when watching all these people, and she goes to the final tomorrow. She's actually going tonight as well. Yeah. It's a good reason to watch good games.
Oh my god, yeah, and I don't have to pay for the ticket.
Yeah.
But yeah, and what's your exciting week apart from starting your No, it's just been a big week. It has.
Yeah. So obviously starting uni is always a big highlight because obviously it's filled with anticipation and anxiety, especially considering I have a little bit of study anxiety as well. So I had a learning experience that was negative because when you have a learning disability and you actually see institutes and lecturers actually go out of their way to actuate your fears of not being represented and not actually allowing your disability to be acknowledged, and they actually mark you negatively associated to that disability. It's weird that I'm still holding on to some of that kind of a little bit of anxiety, and
It's
this whole
justified.
week, even you talking right now, I can feel it. I can feel it coming back up, and I'm like, oh, I've been dealing with this emotion all week. But yeah, no, this week's been quite good. I've managed to really just breathe into it, and yeah, I'm probably overdoing it, but that's fine. I've got an assignment in 3 weeks. It's a reflective essay, and so I managed to do the first module, which is meant to take the week, and that's just on the science of psychology and statistics. So they're one of my
If you ever
favorites.
wanted to see Wayne brain dead, you should have seen him after that.
Yeah, statistics. Anyone that's done stats will understand. Understanding like the t-test and trying to understand p-value and that kind of stuff, and then put it back into like the reality of practice. That's always hard. Definitely, my brain was just like, I haven't done this in ages. What do you mean? There's a formula that I have, and how's this related to science? It is science.
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
and I can understand that, like obviously from a perspective of the curriculum, they need to tell you this kind of stuff, and it is a higher standard because this is not a graduate qualification. So they're needing to basically just tick boxes, get you familiarized and up to speed, so that you can just keep moving and actually, tackle some bigger issues. But like the first assignment in this particular paper is always quite a challenging one, being a reflective concept. So most people will have to understand what style of reflecting model they want to use. My go-to is always the what, so what next, just because it's the simplistic variable.
Yep.
And I just personally like it. It's not too wordy. It's pretty straightforward.
Well, the draft I read today sounded really good.
Well, it is
I really enjoyed it.
on the Treaty of Waitangi, so I'm quite stoked. That's something I am. So my overall reason why I'm even discussing this is not just the fact that my highlight is starting uni. It's the fact that I've managed to get a draft out of my assignment, and
In the
actually,
first week.
yeah, because when you have a little bit of learning disabilities, it's nice to sit on something as opposed to try to write it in a smaller framework of time. So for me, I can now sit, I can analyze it, I can do some proofreading and editing, and then I can also continuate and start for the next one because I've got 3 weeks after to deliver another one.
Whereas the ADHD party who sits there and wants to procrastinate until the cows come home.
Yeah.
And then go, oh, freak, it's due now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not seeking dopamine, so I'm good.
You're doing well.
The other highlight that's not work or educational. I mean, I didn't shit myself this week, so that's good.
That's a bonus.
Fuck. The bar's low now, guys.
That's an improvement for you, though.
Thanks.
No, well, you haven't been the best of health, so yeah. That's a good one. But no, it's been an interesting week in Queensland. They've had a very interesting week. They're still talking like the world's going to fall down, and it's
well, it's a natural disaster. It's horrible.
Oh, it is. It's terrible.
Hopefully hopefully it's not too much damage.
From what I've seen at the moment, it's just flooding because it came in on. But it's flooding.
A natural disaster. Well, there's heaps of erosion on the Gold Coast. Like we won't know the extent of the damage until a couple of days. No. Yeah.
Just got to keep all the sticky beakers away and keep them off the road so they don't wash the water into the house.
Oh, they won't work. People.
No, they never used to in Townsville, did it? Everyone used to drive up and down the bloody roads after the earthquakes, and the water gets all washed up.
In the earthquakes?
The cyclones.
Yeah. Country. Well, I mean, the Australian by nature, right? Like, we're a pretty easygoing kind of personality, really. So, like, what people really see is they're like, oh, idiots are out and surfing, and the kids are doing, because that's what we do.
It's a great wave. Why not?
Especially as a Queenslander, we very much, and I can talk globally on this aspect because I'm so experienced now. No, but like as a person that's lived, central all the way up to the top, and then obviously finishing up in Brizzy, I definitely, yeah. Whenever there's like a natural disaster or anything like that, especially if you're a kid, yeah, you just grab the boogie board and go for a surf on the grass, or you just
We'll just
like,
make sure none of the rivers have burst their banks that have got crocs in them.
yeah. But even that, like, I don't
It's,
know. It's just funny. You're just more inclined to go outside and do some stupid shit,
yeah.
because we're just trying to like normalize horrific events.
Yeah.
And even when we're talking about like, there's a cyclone literally hitting Brisbane, which is not done in this generation, and
No.
like I've never experienced it,
No.
and yet we're just like, meh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what a lot of people probably don't realise is that there's the cyclone rating for houses in central Queensland and North Queensland is different to southern Queensland, because southern Queensland's not supposed to get cyclones. So it's been a bit of a worry with people going, oh, the houses, are they going to survive?
Yeah, I feel sorry for the insurance, because very rarely after is it the Capricorn, what's it called?
Tropical Capricorn.
Yeah. When a cyclone usually drops under, it turns into a tropical depression. But this time around, it stayed its classification, and it actually, well, it went from 2 to 1, and then now it's even going to break up even further. But yeah, so now there's a real claim for a lot of insurance companies, which it's going to be fun.
Glad it's not me. They're a nightmare to deal with.
Oh, they are. Like I remember the Brisbane flooding, and then all of a sudden their policy and procedures changed.
Yep.
No different to how Christchurch's policy and procedures changed post earthquake. Like it's just ridiculous. I'm not a big fan, if I'm honest, and this is a not favourable opinion, and I get that. Nor is it an educated opinion. But I'm not a big fan of like the insurances in general, because they make it sound like you're going to get help when you need it. And the reality is you don't. The concept, if you look at health insurance, for instance, you're paying basically you're paying when you're healthy, so that when you're not, it's there. But then what people will then find out when they actually need it, that there's all these caveats and footnotes in the actual contract, and then you're only aware of that when you're actually in desperate need of it. And the same goes with like health insurance and everything. Yeah, it's just it's an unfortunate event. And the same thing goes with like animal and pet insurance. It's actually quite a systemic issue. And I feel like, who's the governing body looking after the regulations around that? And why isn't the government implementing other strategies? Because from my understanding and how I've read it, it seems like they're their own governance. And I'm like, that doesn't make logical sense when they're actually impacting quality of life. And doesn't that isn't that like from a like a fundamental problem, like an institutionalized problem? Who is looking after that?
Yeah, it's like highway robbery, isn't it? They're bloody and they're just the wording. It's all about the wording.
Oh yeah, no, that's true. Wording is important.
God almighty. Anyway, enough on that tangent. We'll get in the shit if we keep going down that road, won't we?
I don't care anymore.
We just keep moving forward, don't we, Wayne?
Look, what I'm kind of coming to terms with, especially with this kind of stuff, like I don't know if I want to have like industry-based conversations only.
No.
I feel like I'm a little bit more diverse than that, and I rant so much about so much different things that I'm really ill-educated and actually really at no opinion to be casting that kind of shade, but I do it.
But it's fun. It's fun. It's
the
fun.
thing is, I would rather say something, learn from an experience, and come back and acknowledge it than not say something and
have hindsight regret.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, we're having fun. So we're going on holidays in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's this one. It was needed.
It was needed.
Yeah.
I've got to remember these bloody buttons, don't I? But we're looking forward to catching up with the family and.
Yeah, so Mum's main personality around it is she loves cruises. She loves going on big ships. If you ever, now this is just in general, if you ever are thinking about going on a cruise ship, talk to my mum. She will itemize it. She will break it all down, and then she'll tell you the pros and cons. So it's a very well-conceived view of an opinion.
From different boats too.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
I've been on different cruise lines, things like that. Yeah, it's fun.
So what we'll do is we'll probably do a synopsis of when we come back, and we can talk about all the things we liked and we didn't like. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's just on Mum.
Oh,
so let's just jump jump into something to kind of break up the.
Awkward silence.
So I want to talk about a little bit about self-doubt and imposter syndrome. So I've got a question if you want one.
Okay.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Why not?
All right. So how do you deal with failure or setbacks in your personal growth journey?
This is a good one. He's looking at me with intent. Um, well, failure one is a mistake. Failure two, you're just dumb. A mistake's only something you do once, so you fail once. But having to
Ideology there. Where is your ideology?
True, but it's just learning from your mistakes and trying to learn where it went wrong and what you can do better. And are you going to do it right the second time? No. Are you going to do it right the third time? No. You just have to keep trying one step at a time. Don't look at me like that.
Is that a self-reflection there, Mum?
Possibly.
So what are you noticing? What are you personally noticing that you're having struggles with your own journey?
Believing in myself and trusting my own me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, trusting me. It's been a pretty traumatic couple of years, and just having to learn to unlearn a lot of stuff.
Like what?
The way you talk about, the way you conduct your communications with people and conversations.
Mine. I'm sorry, I try really hard.
No, just things that we were taught when we were younger in a wrong generation, and it was a wrong learned behaviour. And today's society, we now know it's incorrect. Having to unlearn that and to relearn it, and breaking 60 plus years of habits is hard, but it is also to be worked on. Otherwise, you might as well just dig your little plot in the ground and go nine-eyes for the rest of your life. So having to unlearn because of past ignorances is a very hard thing to learn. But that's something I'm trying to be more aware of, consciously and unconsciously, but I'm trying to be a bit more aware of it. So it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, self growth is not it's not meant to be easy.
And also just to believe in yourself too, because I mean, you grow up and you always put yourself down. Because
don't understand that. I fucking inflate myself where possible.
You're a good boy. You never learnt anything off your mother.
Fucking hell.
Oh, you're a nut.
So what kind of the setbacks have you noticed?
Trying to bring it into trying to bring the changes into my daily life, trying to bring it into my daily world, just trying to bring it in. Trying to say, no, that's not right. You've got to try and change it. And it's sort of having to work on that cognitive change. And I'm not as young as I used to be. So the brain doesn't work as fast as it used to. So it's some days it's easier and other days it's hard.
Yeah.
It also depends how my mood is too, I suppose.
if ever there was a window into.
Oh God, there's a rant I've had a couple of times this week with people about doctors telling them they're menopausal.
Yeah. So just bringing it back around, how do you deal with imposter syndrome then?
So most of my life working, we were always told 75% of the job you can learn 20, and because you don't always go into a job knowing 100%.
Yeah.
If you do, you're in the wrong job because you're being underpaid. But we were always told if you know between about 60 to 75% have basic knowledge, the rest can be learnt on the job. And it's hard believing that. In my history with working with men, it was very hard to get them to accept. I knew 75%. Whereas they sat there and they go, shouldn't you be at that computer? And you go, you're right, honey. But trying to get others to believe in it as well. But it is hard, and it's very scary because you don't believe in yourself and you think you're going to get knocked back all the time.
Mm.
Have you experienced it? Imposter syndrome?
Oh, I thought you were referencing chauvinistic
Oh, well,
or
yeah, you will have
misogynistic
seen it.
behavior. Sorry,
God, yes.
I was kind of like just transfixed on that for a second. I'm like, yeah, I mean that's fair. Yeah, females in workplaces, and yeah, I can understand all that. But in terms of imposter syndrome, yeah, every day. Imposter syndrome is my friend and enemy at the same time. Like it is one that motivates me, and it also is something that hinders me.
Mhm.
Um, so it's finding a nice little balance between the two because it's more of a nuance. So it's not just on my professional life; it's also on my personal life. And I'm constantly having to question my thoughts. Is this my thought, or is this a preconceived thought, or is it a community-based thought? Like, where is this thought coming from, and what is my relationship to this thought? Do I want this thought to be a representation? Is this something that mirrors my behavior? Is this something that I want to define me? And so, a lot of the time, with especially self doubt is a big one. Like dealing with social anxiety, dealing with just a higher level of cortisol when processing is always a challenge in its own sense. But yeah, trying to like not silence. I don't think silencing that negative feedback loop that's in the head. It's understanding why it's there. Is it useful? And can I reformulate it in a way that's more constructive? So, because I never want to turn off my self doubt because I can use that as motivation. And I've learned how to do that. But it's something that requires a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of processing. It's not something that comes easily with a manual. It's something that it requires a lot of work. But I've learned over time that you can have two differing thoughts and still live a life and have, that whole concept of these things don't define me, these thoughts aren't me, and question and have that really, it's really relative to question and challenge your mindset. And I think for me personally, around personal growth, that is something that has taken me a long time to learn. And then obviously just the failure of giving a shit about what other people think, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter.
No.
Like if I cared about every single thing other people thought of me, I wouldn't get out of bed, and that's fact. So I can't change perception. I can only work on myself. I can only work on my own internal thoughts and how I actuate them, and I can work on my behavior and I can moderate my actions. But how other people see it and how it's perceived, that is something that's well outside of my control. And quite frankly, if people don't respect boundaries in its own sense, or they do not actually comprehend me and have the ability that, hey, you're changing or you're questioning or whatever factors, if a wall has been put in place, I can't move past a wall. So if there's a prejudice or a predetermination of who I am and what I'm about, there's not much I can do about that. So I just carry on in my life and I'm just wishing people all the best and fuck off.
Kumbaya, see you later.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
No, well, good thought. Good thought. It takes balls to do that.
I mean, at what point do you choose you? So if you think of all the times, like I've made comment previously about this. If we were to pull this into a clinical room, the therapist, you trust the therapist to do their job and what's best for you. The therapist trusts you, but more specifically, the therapist trusts you to trust yourself. So I learned that over time that if you don't trust yourself and you don't rely on yourself, then you won't rely on anyone else because you won't know when to ask for help. You won't know where people are. And if you surround yourself by people who are outwardly doing the same thing, then you're alone. And it's that whole, you can be in a room full of people and feel incredibly alone. And so I've learned over the time that I'm never alone because I'm always with myself. So even if I'm in a room full of people, I'm still backing myself. And I don't need these other people to influence who I am as an individual. They definitely can have an effect, but they're not gonna dictate or predetermine the skill factors of who I am.
No, that's good.
Therapy.
Lots.
Fuck yeah, it doesn't stop, and you shouldn't stop. And I don't need to study psych to be able to articulate that either. And that's the other thing. Oh my God. I could rant about that. People's preconceived ideas of what psych is. It's just study. Like they're glorified journalists at this point. We're just justifying rational thoughts and coming up with equations that potentially can determine everything. Research. So I have something that we can start talking about, which I think I'm personally invested in, but I would like to know what your thoughts are as well. And it's around technology, it's around the future of AI and its impact on different industries.
Very good. Bearing in mind that I'm also from the generation that never had a lot of technology, so I've seen a lot of it come through. You know, I am a fossil, I'll admit it. No, not the granite and stone at school, but we did have inkwells, but not graphite boards. Technology is great. It has its advantages. It has its disadvantages too. AI, it can be a bit scary at times.
How so?
Can a computer get smarter?
Yes.
Than a person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's data.
And it can be a bit scary. When do they, because,
Oh, you're going to make this into a question, and I'm going to question your hypotheses and break it down.
Who's going to? Oh my God.
Is human thought an innate experience? So that's why it's like,
No. It's hey, look, I love chat. I love chatbot. I think it's great. I think where AI can get hard is like when you hypothetically phone the bank and you've got to go through all of those things. That's all AI now, and they ask you all the questions, and then it's more AI stuff, and then you sit there and I just want to talk to a fucking person. But yeah, it's the way of the future. I mean, look at the cars. Half of them can bloody drive themselves now.
I mean,
It's scary.
I always look at it from a different lens. So for me, I see AI as a great tool for people who have learning disabilities, or hearing issues, or speech. I think there's a lot of opportunities. It's actually, and I assume that's the original format, right? It's offering a aid to people who potentially see value in it at the end of the day. So when we start complaining about the use of AI, at the end of the day, when businesses see value in it, or when individuals can see the value of utilizing it or see the usage of it, it's going to create demand. And then, no, I said it wrong. It's going to create the attention and the need for it. So for me, I think it's really important because not everyone, like the bigger argument at the moment is AI in, academic spaces. And the thing that I always say is if a institute is in a situation where they're now condemning AI influence on people's ability to show their comprehension, then instead of bullying or outwriting the construct of AI, how about just analyze, is this the most effective way to show comprehension and understanding or acknowledgement of the curriculum? And instead of looking at things as a negative, go, okay, well, if a person hypothetically can literally, and even though they've got software to potentially, check if there's AI plagiarism or anything like that, or influence, instead of like investing all this time and energy into formulating new, countermeasures to make people actually earnest on what they're writing, how about question how you're actually delivering the content and how you're actually requesting the individuals to show their comprehension or knowledge?
Well, because you've got to put something in there for AI to work it out. So you can't,
I mean, technically, and there's different, like, when I say this, we're not just focusing on one AI. We're actually there are actually quite a few options out there, and some of them, like, there's a lot of videos that are coming out through YouTube that actually articulate how relevant like AI is actually significantly advancing. There is literally there's a lot of social media that are actually run by AI. Like they literally type, like there's a person that literally will type in a content side of it. They'll generate a base story narrative, and then they'll have an AI voice, and the whole thing potentially could be done via an AI. So whenever I start hearing academic-based scenarios and the limitations, I'm always looking at this going, okay, so they help people like me. It helps me be aware on how to become concise, how to write, because as a dyslexic person, I have a tendency to over-word my explanations, and I don't have the ability to quietly tenses are not my friend. Like understanding tenses is never something I have a lot of success with. And the reality is, if it's an AI or a person, either way, other people are going to have to help me. That's a fact, right? Like I will write something up, a person will go off, and they will literally proofread my material and give me feedback in real time, and then I obviously edit it. Now, is that plagiarism? And that's the question.
Yeah,
like in my eyes, I still need help.
Yes.
In my eyes, I still need somebody to sit there and actually, read through my stuff, understand the curricula that I'm trying to hit. That helps me. Now, where the problem can be asked is when it generates additional words or additional
information.
That's when it's going to become a problem, because they're adding resources that I haven't actually found, or I personally haven't actually read. And that's where the potential problem will come. But the argument is still there in the most simplistic variable. Now, instead of outrightly getting rid of it or boycotting it and putting all this money into finding software that can find out who did what and how, how about just change the curriculum, change the goalposts? If you know your shit, you should be able to change your educational strategist. Like, if an essay or a research paper is the only thing that quantifies knowledge, I'm sure there's other ways. And I'm sure there's other ways to exhibit or test people's knowledge or skill bracket. I mean, they are paying for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So the issue will be like in 10 years' time when someone's like build a bridge and it turns out that they did their entire degree on an AI factor. But the reality is, like, as much as we can argue about it, there's not a lot of processes to inhibit it from happening. And there's more and more that's going to, if the demand is there, which there is, they will find ways to make it happen. That's why they have to have plagiarism in the first place. It's why we do APA fucking referencing. Like, there's a reason. And the idea is we never have, as time progresses, and this is the other thing, time is a linear format, right? So as we work off a colonial archetype, which is what, academia is, the time that we are in that realm, we're never going to have an original thought anyway. So at what point do we stop trying to convince other people that we have an original thought when it's not influenced by either society or environment or academia? It's a very interesting fact. And then, like, when you really look at a lot of academia curriculum, there is a lot in there that's actually irrelevant to the actual job if they're moving into that career. And I don't know. This is a very unpopular and non-referenced opinion.
What about the music industry and the AI?
I mean, it's already in play.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the arguments around the Oscars, right? Like, there was the Amelia, whatever the fuck that was, and the supporting actor Zoe, blah blah blah. Her voice was literally, and the thing is, that whole thing came out. I mean, there's that is a discussion. I could talk about that. Anywho, but in the AI element, they were open about that. They said they actually had, and this is when the writers went on strike. About this exact problem, that AI was actually a big indication of why they went on to strike. And yet here we have a movie about not
fictional characters.
It's very interesting surroundings. And then and this person literally got an Oscar because of an AI intervention.
I know.
And the music industry do it all the time. Like, they synthesize all the music. You don't hear original, like, guitars, and it's all synthesized. Especially in pop. I remember this being a big contention with electro drums for metal. And this is like the 2000s. So what was it? It was
5 years ago.
But I remember there was like big issues between what is metal and what is new metal. They called it new age. And I remember this being an issue because they were using a lot of like electro stimulus or AI interventions. And so like, auto-tune has been around for fucking years. That's AI. We're literally using a formation. This is a formation. Like, everything is in our disposal. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to a cost variable. So if you have the money, you will actually succeed.
Exactly.
Which is no different to how the construct of society becomes anyway.
Exactly. But it's funny when you hear people say, "Oh, I'm anti-AI." Okay.
Don't use your phone.
Or watch a movie. Or listen to music.
Or even have a watch.
Exactly. Hop back
Yeah, I
in your
mean,
cave.
I feel well, it's not so much the cave factor. It's just like if you're making global, like generalized statements like that,
Mm.
you're kind of admitting the probability of the fact that it's actually already around you.
Mm.
And instead of like having this broad argument, instead understand where your bias sits and
Mm.
where the cognitive dissonance is.
And what are you scared of?
Well, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like no one's going to take your job, Karen. Sit down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're still in an era that everything does require an element of human behavior because the reality when it comes to, I mean, academic writing in its own sense, like scientific based,
Mm-hmm.
they probably won't be able to generate that just yet.
No.
But the reality is when you're looking at how AI are formulating a lot of sentence structures, they actually need to have human error in there. So they've got to learn how to be human error, which is an innate human experience. Falsifying my own fucking statements.
Go you.
So that being said, I'm going to piggyback off the influence of social media and self perspective. How do you see, or how do you think social media has changed the way you view yourself?
I hate doing social media. He's the first one. He'll tell you this. He's looking at me quite intently.
Just my eyes. They're just so special and colourful.
Social media has influence because it's a way that we reach out to people. Like years ago, you'd have sent a letter. Nowadays, you just drop a message.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as sending a letter anymore.
Mm.
It's all now, in the now. But some people do need to stop putting their dirty linen out there. But
I like that.
oh yeah, it's good reading. But I mean,
No,
it's cringy.
I mean, it is cringe.
Mm.
Yeah, good old terms. Keeping up with the lingo.
Oh wow, go me.
I mean, when I start reading people's laundry,
Mm-hmm.
I end up really empathizing with them because for them that's the only way they feel they can get someone to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I start questioning what's happening in their life where the ones around them in the physical world aren't able or aren't around for this person to feel seen, heard, and
And that's something I never thought of.
what do you mean?
I hadn't looked at it that way.
I mean, I mean, it's all form.
Mm.
Everything anyone posts on social media, if it has a personal attachment, it's a cry for help.
Mm.
At the end of the day, anything people post, even if it's a repost, even if it's like if it's on your personal account and your group of friends are the witness to it, you're going to show some variation of cry for help or an example of what is good in your life. At no stage do people want to see negative, and if you are putting any kind of like help out there for aid, people don't want to help you. No one wants to help. Because that would require additional effort, and most people are at capacity, especially on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, no one ever looks at that going. Whenever I see like a person post something on social media, and they have such an interesting conversation around like what social media is and blah blah blah, because you'd always talk to your friends about how they see post like social media in their own right, because it will give you a clarification on how to use it with them. Because if a person's in there and they're using it for their own business, for instance, well, they don't really need your personal input every 2 seconds because you're not their market. And it's understanding if you're their market or not. But if it's a personal and it's a closed account and, people that are on there are privileged just to see what you're posting and you're saying, hey, you're important to me, this is the way of connection, and you verbalize that in person and online, then you're setting the parameters of how you want to use it.
Yeah.
And so if you do post something that is a little bit more questionable, I would be more inclined to look at it going, are you okay? Otherwise, I would just be like, am I overthinking this? Because I overthink everything.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think Facebook is going to die like MySpace and all of that?
No.
You don't?
No.
It certainly has changed a lot over the 10 or so, be more than 10 years, I think, since it was about 2000.
I don't think MySpace didn't work. I think it got
obsolete.
No, I think the market just got more competitive. And I think the issue with MySpace is that it didn't cater to the larger audience that it was competing against. And that's where I think Facebook worked. Where I think Facebook did something quite interesting is how it made it into a separate own entity. So that when you think Facebook, you actually don't just think, or when you think Meta, for instance, you
Mm.
don't just think Facebook now. You think of Instagram. You think of all these other factors it has associations to.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like Facebook, it's a boomer central. So it's quite interesting because you're basically catering to a larger demographic of people who are more inclined to use it the way in which it was really intended to use it.
Mhm.
It's not like Instagram, for instance, where that's more my generation, because that's essentially the difference.
Yep.
How you interface with that particular social media. That's why TikTok is such a revolutionized construct for a lot of people, and why Snapchat became a thing for the young.
Mhm.
It's because it's essentially giving relevance for people to use in a format that they feel comfortable using, or they have some form of like nostalgic link to.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, Facebook is an interesting thing. A lot of businesses use Facebook to generate, but it's a dying market from that perspective. I think there'll be another kind of revamp of it. That's what I
Yeah.
predict anyway.
Mhm.
But yeah, I do believe the way AI will change and interface the differences. I think that will be the key.
Mhm. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Mm.
I like algorithms. So I remember when TikTok was hitting the scenes and everyone was going off with all of the TikTok kind of short, quick, fast content, and it was so different to the algorithmic pattern that was Instagram.
Mhm.
TikTok wanted to have around between 4 and 6 video posts to get maximum attention, so you didn't get what's known as shadow banned. Yeah, and so
He knows
as
all about it.
I do, yep. And so the competitive construct was then it moved to Instagram. So Instagram created Reels because it was short form content to basically then match TikTok's scrolling concept,
Mhm.
dopamine requirements. And I remember when the Reels became a big thing in TikTok, oh sorry, Instagram, sorry. Yeah, they would want the same concept that TikTok was doing. So at the time that was happening, it was all about taking a form of content, cutting it, and then creating additional,
Mhm.
so that you're using other people's content, which is double handling, and then that was getting triple, sometimes quadruple the amount of exposure. And then that was entertaining the algorithmic pattern. And so if you were harping onto something that was having around like 400,000 views and you made a short out of that and you created new form content off it, and then and more people would do more and more of that, it became a viral sensation. And that was an algorithmic pattern that worked,
Mhm.
and it worked based both on TikTok and on Instagram, and
Mhm.
they were the two comparative. And I think Instagram moved the Reels into Facebook
Facebook.
to keep it relative.
Mhm.
And then now we're in another like a little bit of a conundrum, because the moment TikTok made long form content that you can make 10-minute content, um, and it was pushing this narrative of long form content to fight with YouTube, because YouTube was making shorts at the same time.
Mhm.
And yeah, so now it was like, how are we using the interfaces of all this, and to what variable? And then on business format, it became a viable option because you can monetize. So you have businesses that literally probably weren't good manually, but they were amazing at delivering information. And all of a sudden they started spending all this money on software and setup, and they could basically make more money they could than in a natural treatment and setting. So
Mhm.
all of a sudden it was about, do we fight and try to like compete with this narrative as manual therapists, or do we just acknowledge the fact that they have the skills and abilities to actually cover the transactional information to clients, and we
Yep.
can actually piggyback off that and work off each other.
Yep.
Um, and it actually offered space to even do podcasts, for
Mm.
instance. Anyone can do a podcast. Anyone can upload onto Spotify now. Like it
Yeah.
opened up the parameters of what social media is to a lot of different people.
Mhm.
But then you'll still have like some people who will be like, I don't believe in like all
I
the
don't do.
influencers, and then they'll be up there doing an influential post going,
Well,
live, eat, pray.
I don't do socials.
Yeah, they'll be like,
Oh, come
work
on.
out. It's
Mm.
like, okay, we get it. Who's that for? If you've got a closed group net of friends, aka private, and you're doing that kind of shit, I'm gonna look at you and go be like, are you okay? Who was that for? It wasn't for me. You know what
No.
I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that's more specifically my rant was around is understand your understand your use of social media, and then make sure that the people that are following you or being a part of your life, that you want a part of your life, actually knows how to interact with you. Because if you're making a public aspect and you're doing it for clout or trying to build up a personality or become a thing, it's not going to be great for your like family members. It's one of those scenarios.
Wise words from Wayne.
Lived it, breathed it.
Yep.
I just don't have time for it. So I'm going to touch on a little bit of like a holistic approach around, healing.
Yep.
How do you define mental health, and what is your daily activities that you do to help your mental health?
Oh, mental health. Where do you start? Mental health is just when you're not running on full. You're not feeling full. You're running on empty.
Mental health?
Mental, emotional, physical.
I think it's just the health of your mental health. Like, just reverse it. This is your health of your mental.
Yep.
As simple as that.
That's a good way of looking at it. Thank you.
I simplify everything.
And what was the second part of it?
What daily activities and habits do you do to work on your mental health?
Breathing.
Breath work, yeah.
Breathing. And and one to drop your heart rate with the mouth closed that you taught me. That was a great one.
Yeah.
That was a good one, that one.
Yeah, it was not too bad. I can do an example, basically. It's where basically close your mouth. And when you're closing your mouth, I want you to separate your teeth, but keep your lips closed. And then I want you to focus on putting your tongue to the top of your two teeth at the very front. So top two teeth, and making sure that your jaw is still relaxed. And then I want you to take a big breath in with your nose and out. This time when you take a big breath in, I want you to know if it was cold or if it was warm going in or out. And that is essentially how you can kind of stop a lot of your thought patterns, or at least calm your breath. It doesn't work. I'm probably not articulating it effectively because I'm just doing it on the spot. But it's one of the easiest ways to help you center. Or the other one is just the pendulum. So imagine that in the middle of your chest you've got a pendulum, and then if it's pulling all the way up, it's trying to yank it, pulling it back down. Or if you're noticing it spiraling, taking the time to kind of help it stop spiraling. There's many tools around that. I feel like you're very good with affirmations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have actually got one in my room that says you to believe in your amazing hot mess that you are.
Oh God, I don't think that's helpful.
Well, it's just to make me be a bit more positive to me when I'm not feeling positive.
Yeah, I mean, I always reference journaling. Journaling is one of the best things you can do because it helps with self-reflection, and it helps with being aware of your thought patterns, and that correlates with obviously cognitive behavioral therapy and DBT, and then you've also got the notion of acceptance and commitment therapy, which is obviously acceptance and commitment. So that's where you expect, you can kind of commit to the fact that there's two things happening at the same time, and accept the fact that you still don't need to be involved in it or be affected by it or defined by it. So there's that, and then even just referencing like the reference of what next. That is a model, even though it's more for academia for me. It's something that I actually translate into conflict resolution skills and self-activations where I'm questioning my behavior and that kind of stuff.
Another thing is I do is when I'm walking around with the dog, just go and touch the trees.
Yeah, tapping sensations.
Just, getting back into grounding. Yeah, tapping.
Some people are more tactile. Some people are more audio. It's understanding what your personal area is. There are a lot of opportunities that you can do if you're stuck in a negative mindset loop or feeling a bit out of sorts with mental health. There's a heap of like techniques that you can do. One of the best ones is to have a cold shower. Something that's going to help shock that thought pattern, and try to kind of regulate that emotion a bit. That's a nice one to finish on, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So what are you doing for the week Pride Week? Are you not going anywhere? Are you going to?
No. Nah, so I'm one of those people that pride is not an opportunity to perpetuate this notion of hookup culture. I would be a big advocate more for the cultural side of pride,
Hmm.
to show that we're more than just fetishes and kinks.
Mm.
And I personally would love if we could incorporate more multicultural
Hmm.
into pride and actually be more diverse in our own community. I feel like that's a big limitation I've noticed within the rainbow community is that we're very much a pakaha kind of setup.
Hmm.
So it'd be nice to actually have a little bit more exposure and inclusion of the totality of the rainbow as
Mm.
opposed to just the more nuance.
And everyone going out and having a party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's still relevant, and
Oh
I
God,
don't want to
yes.
diminish or shame because that's not. I don't want to shame anyone's.
Mm. Do you know this is the first year in a few years we haven't
Yeah, I know.
done something for
Yeah,
Pride
first
Week?
year. Yeah,
Yeah,
first
but I
year
suppose
since.
it's been a bit of a busy, complicated
Yeah,
12 months.
I also feel as I'm getting older, I just don't feel represented
Mm.
when it comes into Pride Week. It's not that I'm not representing in Pride. I
Mm.
am. And I always feel like I have opportunities to talk and be a voice. So a lot of the limitations I'm currently experiencing with that is also my own doing as well, because I'm not out there asking, challenging, blah.
Hmm.
And that's also a lot of work. And I don't mean to sound dissociative of that. It's just if,
Your
oh,
plate's pretty full.
yeah, I mean, I'm at capacity, so
Yeah.
I just look at it going, I don't see that as a true representation of my pride.
No.
My pride would be more about advocacy of inclusion within our own group
Yes.
and actually not just being one-sided. Actually, show that families are still there.
Mm.
We have marriage for a reason, and including people's livelihood and just more than just party culture
Mm.
or jumping on a boat and just yeah, I don't think that's great advocacy. I think
No,
it only caters to a certain percentage of people.
that's okay.
So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not a big party person at the moment.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, this is it. This is the first year we
Mm.
haven't done anything, and yeah,
But it's been.
hopefully we can rejig this.
We'll work
Um,
something out later
yeah,
down. There's other things we still advocate for as well, not just the pride. We got the prostate cancers and
yeah. I mean that's the
breast.
thing, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's
yeah.
not. I'm not only going to put it down to 1 week or
No,
1 month.
no.
It's a life for me. It's my lifestyle. It's who I am. It's not something I'm afraid of, and it's not something I don't want to hide
No.
or change.
Yep.
So every day for me is pride. So mm,
Well said.
yeah, but hopefully I can help other people to get there. That's the big
Yeah,
one. Is
yeah.
figuring out ways that you can share and aid. And I guess this is also
Mhm.
something that we are helping with this talking, even though no one's
No
listening.
one knows.
No, like. Yeah. All right. With that said, we're going to wrap it up. Mum's got to go off and volunteer her time down at the Isaac Theatre tonight,
Yes,
watching a amazing squash.
yeah,
This is the
semis,
semis.
yes.
Semis tomorrow being the final. Yeah. So if you are around, you see Mum. She's got red hair. So
I'm the only one there with bright red hair.
so with that being said,
Thanks for listening,
we are
guys.
done. You have a wonderful time and welcome for being elbow deep with me. Oh God. See you later.